Okay, this is just a primer on designing your own circuit board, just getting started. First, we kind of talked about demonstrating dip trace, which is a tool that I use to do this, but I decided to make it a little bit more generic than that. And and just cover the overall design and just some input that I had for the choices that I made. So we're going to talk about PCB design software, PCB manufacturing, and the PCB assembly. So with the PCB design software, there's lots of options out there. There's Eagle PCB, I think, is by far the most popular. I chose Dip Trace, and there's a Design Spark, KiCad, TinyCAD. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the different PCB design software out there. I did not do an in-depth review of all of them. I started out trying to use Eagle PCB because I saw that I could download other people's schematics and start working from there, and I already have a base point to start with. And for instance, Arduino supplies their schematics in Eagle CAD or Eagle PCB. So anyway, so I started trying with that, and I just wanted to switch over real quick and kind of show Eagle PCB. And so this is an Arduino board. Let me move around here. If I could remember which. All right. Well, anyways.
I can demo that. I use Eagle.
I got, as you can see, and I wasn't staged to do this, I get frustrated with the interface on Eagle PCB. So if I want to click on this link and see what it is, or I can't right click on it, can't get any properties about it. So all the modern GUI tools allow you to do that sort of thing. Oh, I don't want to say that this is not modern. I'm sorry, this is still a modern tool. It's just, it didn't flow for me. It didn't flow for me, right?
Yeah, you have to go click on the information.
Yeah, I know. So there's a whole toolbar. You got to click on the toolbar what you want to do, and then go back and click on the object. But if I'm used to the newer CAD software where I click on something, I can right click on it, get a list of properties. I click on it, I can just automatically drag and drop as I see fit, or do. And so I just got frustrated with Eagle because of that. So I kind of switched over to a software called Dip Trace that was more in line with that, and it's actually going to demonstrate another piece. And it's got a feature where I can convert from an Eagle schematic and convert it over to Dip Trace. So it's got its own little tool to do that, because I'm sure they recognize that it's very, Eagle is very popular.
Does it do that fairly seamlessly, not without rework problems?
I haven't used it in depth with that. It converts it to I think it's an ASCII type file. So a very generic type file, and then imports it in. So I'm sure it loses a lot of details, but I mean, as far as the schematic, it exists and it's there with whatever information that it could export from Eagle. And you can make things pretty generic in Eagle, so I guess it's also how detailed you made it in Eagle, the more it will be able to export out into Dip Trace. But anyways, that's just real quick overview of that. Like I said, there's some great tutorials out there. So I didn't want to try to recreate tutorials that are out there. Probably do a better job than I can already. So there's video guides showing you how to draw schematics, routing the board, making components, making footprints for yourself, and generating the files for PCB manufacturing. So there's lots of great resources out there already to do that if you're interested. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time on Dip Trace if nobody else is interested in Dip Trace, right? So,
just a second. Did you by any chance look at? I've seen some of the fab shops have their own, like.
I considered that, and the reason why I avoided that is I didn't want to be locked into a fab shop, right? So I wanted to be able to go out and
source whenever.
Go to somebody else and find what I want, and not say, oh, now I got to try to convert it to something else, and maybe lose some details and have to do some rework because it wasn't a universal tool. So, so with that, where do you get started with PCB manufacturing, right? I found this place. I started out at OSH Park, or OSH Park, I don't know how they pronounce it. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention, sorry, about Eagle, I don't know if you guys know, but it got bought by, what is it, Autodesk, right?
Oh.
So is it,
Yeah, so I think that's pretty new news, and supposedly they plan on keeping it an open source version available and doing all that, which is kind of interesting because they have a competing product already, Autodesk Electronics or something like that to
It's
design
open
PCBs.
or available for hobbyists?
For
Without-
theirs?
Yeah.
I don't think theirs is free. No, I don't think.
Right.
But and there's non-free models for Eagle too. So Eagle, I guess let me switch
4
back.
by 4 or
So
something like
yeah,
that.
it's like almost 4 inches, 3.9 inches by 3.1 inches is the board limitation, and then 2 signal trace layers is
This was for
the limitation for
Autodesk,
Eagle.
You saying?
For Eagle.
Half of the free version.
And then, and that was another reason that I also went to DipTrace, because I was just making, so starting out, I'm not making complicated boards. I just got frustrated with the rat nest of wires, and so I just created a board that just routed my wires inside the board, and I'm just plugging other boards into it. So it wasn't really complicated designs, it was just kind of how like things to look a little bit cleaner. In my first robot that was on a breadboard, and get wires all over the place, and then upgraded and into several circuit boards, and then just connected by wires that are still all over the place. And so I just created a board that I could plug other boards into and interface them. And then when I first tried to do that, I was beyond the 4-inch by 3-inch design, and so I was like, oh, what else can I find? And so that's when I really switched over to DipTrace. And I forgot to bring that, but some of you guys have seen it. It's just an interface board that I have on my robot that I plugged a Teensy into, and then it's got power bus and a power supply, a DC converter, and on it to take care of all that.
So is DipTrace free then, or?
So DipTrace has a free version, nonprofit, and Eagles is also for nonprofit. But the DipTrace doesn't have a size limitation. It's got a hole limitation or a pad limitation. So 300 holes or 300 pads if it's surface mount. So you can create a board as big as this desk, and if you only had 300 pads or holes on it, then you're fine with the DipTrace limitation. So I preferred that limitation over.
Is that
How
rough?
often would that happen to board the size of the desk?
Yes.
I'm exaggerating. Come on.
When
Come on.
you think when you got away.
I wanted to go 5 inches by 4 inches, right? So I couldn't do it on the Eagle anymore. So now I
So
could
it
do
might
it
as
on
well be
DipTrace.
4 by 8
Yeah.
So I would think that would be less than a fairly busy, dense 3x4 with some large leadless chips on it, 150 pins or so. Interesting.
It
Okay.
looks like the free version is 500 pins and 2 signal layers
Okay, 500.
Yeah.
for
is better.
nonprofit.
For dip
There
trace?
it is. For DipTrace.
Yeah.
DipTrace,
So
500 is better. Yeah,
no,
300 is not.
But
well,
yeah, and
no,
you-
it's 300
You kinda
pins for the
mentioned
free
Eagle,
version.
If you're not making money,
He's,
you can.
he's,
you
he's
can
looking at
sorry.
it on the nonprofit though.
Yeah, this is nonprofit. 2 different pages.
2 different
With
pages, 2 different pricing, whatever.
DipTrace, this is off the web and that's off the web too.
This is off the web. This is under buy/nonprofit.
Okay.
But you can double that board size in Eagle if you're not making money, and I think go to 4 layers. That's the model I used because I was making money. I think I paid $800 to get the
Yeah, so
4 layers and bigger.
Here's their Express free version where it says 100 by 80 millimeters, and then $169 for a maker version that it still has a size limitation. And but
6
then
layers. Okay.
That's not
And-
bad. What was it, and 4 for the other one, or 2? 2, okay.
so it says 2 signal layers. And so what I also read on DipTrace, and I don't know if this is true for Eagle, but the signal layers does not include planes. So if you had a ground plane
Oh, okay.
and a
Okay.
power
That's a
plane,
big-
at
all
least
right. That's a
at least
huge-
that's what it states in DipTrace.
That's a
But that's
layer.
why they specifically say signal layers.
But sometimes if you need to cheat, I mean, often I've had a power plane and I need to cheat and run a couple of traces, then you wouldn't be able, but maybe you could
Probably.
manually run them. I don't know, okay, I'll
Okay.
shut up.
Anyways, I mean, it's just some different options and some information to build on there. So
So was it easier to learn if you're used to the modern CAD than the weird toolbar stuff of Eagle?
I found that it was. Steve gave a pretty good design presentation on Design Spark's CAD software, so it's the same concept with just drag and drop, and so again that's why I listed this here, because maybe their PCB software is, if you're familiar with their CAD, it might be an easier transition to use their PCB.
Yeah, Design Spark PCB is free. The problem that I had with that, because I tried using that briefly, and they at the time were forcing you to send the Gerbers or whatever they created out to their own fab house, so you were locked into them.
Yeah, so it's
and
a
that's
fab
over in
system.
Europe, so I was like, I'm not.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
They required it, or was it an option? Because I think DipTrace also has an option where it's like send to manufacturer, and they've already worked out a deal where you do that. But you can also just export your own Gerbers to go to any manufacturer that you want.
That was the only option to
Okay.
actually, because I went and designed a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, how do I go make this? I have to send it over there and wait weeks, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go get Eagle, which I ended up doing.
Yep.
So.
Did you get frustrated with the interface on Eagle?
Oh, very.
Okay, so that takes me to the, where do you start for PCB manufacturing? And when I first started doing it, PCB Shopper was not available. I was using OSH Park, and pretty happy with them. It's still great whenever you're doing some small runs and getting, I think it's a minimum of 3 boards. I think I have that up here as well.
Yeah, sure.
So OSH Park, and see pricing and design.
Yeah, $5 a square inch for
So-
3 boards. Yeah.
Right, $5 a square inch for 3 boards, and some different options here if you needed express or something. So when I'm doing my initial prototypes and everything, I usually go with them. I even did one of their medium runs, and it sounds a lot better, $1 per square inch. But when I started doing a larger run like that, I found going to PCB Shopper and then putting in the specifications that you want, and everybody has their own rules. If it's 10 minimum 10 boards or 50 boards, and so you can put all your requirements that you want in here, and then it basically is looking at a list of all these different manufacturers up here and showing you what that would cost with what you wanted to do. If you wanted 50 boards, and then it's going to show you who's cheaper with 50 boards for this, or if you wanted 100 boards, who's cheaper with that. So I did that a few times, and the company that I went with was LeRoy. So I went ahead and put a link down here. And so it's the other thing. I don't want to switch a PCB manufacturer every time I'm getting a new board done. I kind of want to, start with one and keep going with them. And so far I've been pretty happy with them. I've done several runs with them, and so I just want to go ahead and show them as one of the options. And I got them from PCB Shopper.
Cost, for the size of the boards?
Let's see. I think I have LeRoy's up here. Nope. So just as a
Nice thing about Osh Park is no shipping. So if you're
It's
doing
free
like
shipping.
a 1-inch square inch board, or half a square inch, it's gonna be like $250 and no shipping.
Yeah.
So you can't beat it if you're willing to wait 2 weeks.
right, and it's still, this is a China manufacturer, so it's still 2-3 weeks to get from them. But the shipping is a little bit more expensive. I think they usually prefer to send it DHL, so it's pretty much going to be about a $30 minimum shipping, when you're getting back. So if you're just going to do, 3 or 5 boards, it's probably not worth it to go out there and do that. OSH Park is better. But yeah. So 10 pieces, 2-layer boards, $9.90. So, and on this one, the size can get up there 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. So that's a lot bigger than
Is that $9 per? No, that's $9
For the-
$9 for 10. Yeah.
Wow.
So do they support like China Post or whatever, $15, or do they make you do DHL?
Usually it's DHL. I think it's so. Anyways, I'm saying that the cost of getting a PC board manufactured for you is not the limiting factor, right? if you want to spend the time and design a board just to make your life more simple and not worry every time you stick your fingers into your robot, you hit a cable that disconnected something else and you don't know where it went before. So this just made life easier for me, and it was another tool that was fun and new to
What
learn.
would be the minimum amount of boards you would make? Like, I want to make about, I got these musical Christmas trees that I'm working on.
Yeah.
For my family, 3D printing and stuff.
Yeah.
And I probably make about maybe 5 to 10 of them. Is that worth making a board for one?
Oh,
yeah.
sure,
Absolutely.
Yep.
sure. Depending on how complicated and how big.
Yeah.
And how much you like to solder.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, exactly.
or how delicate it is for wires to come unplugged, and whether or not you want to like hot glue it so that it stays in there.
Drawings
It's
and
like,
arrays in there, and
Oh, here you go.
Those
you know,
nylon-
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, some little H bridge. I mean, I got little mini, 8 mini stepper motors, little bitty things. They're gonna be spinning some little things in there. So there's gonna be 8 per tree. And
Sounds like
Sounds like-
a
Sounds like a
board.
circuit board.
That does, it does.
Yeah.
That nylon
Yep.
proto board's really expensive.
well, I mean, I also started off with, started out with the prototyping board, right? But this drives me crazy with these. I mean, it's still soldered and it's not going to fall apart, but just Frankenstein looking, and I don't like leaving stuff like this. So this is an early prototype of my LiDAR controller board, right? So this got all the same components on it, but
And it's a real pain to do reprint, because that's your soldering iron.
yeah. So
But it can also be difficult if you're uncertain about things. To have to edit a circuit board is now a little bit of a trick.
That's blue wire.
Well, yeah, but
10
depending
bucks
on
an
what
hour.
it is, I
You
mean,
might be lifting a pin out of a socket too, but that's not fun.
okay, so yeah, all right. So we showed the kind of the pricing of PCB. So then moves on to PCB Assembly, right? So PCB Shopper also has another tab that you could click over, and so you could find the places. So some of those manufacturers don't offer assembly services. Some of them do, but PCB Shopper has another tab that will show you the assembly. And it just so happens that Electro does offer manufacturing and assembly, and I just went through that process for the first time a few weeks ago, and it was great. So I got it back, and I was like, oh man, now I don't have to do all this through-hole soldering and everything. It was I think it was worth it.
cool. Can you just tell us what you had and how many components and what it cost roughly?
Yeah, so they charge 40 cents per through hole and 30 cents per pad to do the soldering, right? And so I even let them buy the parts, and so you can give them your bill of materials, and they'll send you back a quote that says, well, here's the cost for all of our bill of materials for this, and then there's a one-time setup fee, like $10 or something for, so whether you're doing 3 boards or 100 boards, that initial setup fee. And so I mean, for my little board, it turned out to be in the range of $3 to $4 per board to get them all assembled and everything. So it wasn't too bad. But
And that's per board? Wait a minute.
per board. Well, yeah. Well, it's the whole. It was
So
the whole
board.
thing. It was the PCB board, the parts, and all the soldering and
You're
everything.
saying to solder, so in other words, if I've got a 20-pin QFN or something that I want stuck to a board, so that's 20 pads,
20 pads.
and then I got 10 components, so it's another 20, we'll say.
Right.
So that's
Well, like
40.
a resistor is two
Yeah,
holes.
pads,
Right.
Two
yeah.
holes.
So, okay, so, okay, and I
That
want to get
$3
10
to
of those
$4
built. Wow. that's
Also
gonna be
included the
complicated.
parts
But that's-
that they're soldering.
Or
Those are that's lead technology or lead and surface.
both.
Both.
You said 30 cents a pad, so a surface mount resistor will cost you 60 cents to have them stick it on a board, right? Why
Is
that
that-
sounds
is that
right.
What's the cost
for
of the
for some reason I can't.
Right.
I might be misquoting
You think
this
that's for 10 boards?
I might be thinking 3 cents and 4 cents versus 30
There
cents
you
and
go.
Because
4
if you
cents.
got if you got your whole board for $3 and $4
Yeah.
per board,
Yeah.
I mean, how long would that? You've just easily spent 2 hours soldering it by hand, right?
Oh no, I got it down to 15 minutes.
15 minutes. But still, $3 or $4 for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Unless
think
you
And
really like
that
to solder.
might be process controlled too, who knows?
so.
So James, I didn't understand, the $3 or $4 per board, did that include the cost of the components
Included
well as the
it was
assembly and
the components, the
board,
PCB board,
everything.
the assembly.
So you just send them, here's my design, here's my bill of materials, and $3 to $4, you get it all back.
Right, right. Yeah, and instead of, I mean, it's not really a line item on the website, so you gotta send them an email and you'll go back and forth. They'll send you a spreadsheet with stuff and go back and forth with them. And then after they come up with the price, they say, for their particular site.
How many boards? How many
3 or 4,
boards
just a
available?
couple.
So basically, after they come back with the price, they'll tell you, okay, just go and order $200 worth of this $1 PCB assembly. So it's kind of misleading to say, oh, $1 for PCB assembly. No, that's just how they,
Their increments.
that's just how they sell their email service. They're going back and forth with you, and once you finalize a price, then you just come in here and buy however many units of that PCB assembly.
And the units is single unit, or is that like groups of units?
Well, no, I'm just saying, so if they came back and said it was going to be $100 for the whole service, your boards and parts and assembly, then they just tell you to come buy 100
And that's
units
one
of this,
or-
which is
or
$100.
1,000? That's, or maybe 1 or 10 or 20 or.
No, that's
it's-
how they, that's their
Yeah.
units of dollar exchange.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a.
It's just a way of
way for-
purchasing that,
They'll say order
total.
50 of these if it's $50. That's
Yeah.
$50.
yeah.
That's their unit of exchange.
Yeah.
Haven't you ever done? I did that once on an eBay or on a PayPal thing. I had a service where I was offering, and so I just had a $1 item, and if it was something that was going to cost $375, I just told the customer just order 375 of these dollars.
Oh, okay.
And then that was their way of paying. me.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So again, you can have them do it. You know, if you're just doing a small batch run or 1 to 3 and testing it out, you're probably still gonna just hand solder it.
Yeah.
If you went with OSH
So
Park.
they'll go scrounge the parts for you. I mean,
Yeah, because it's got to be some standard
mean-
parts and some non-standard parts too, though.
You can give, so in my circumstance, I gave them part numbers for everything, and so they'll come back and say, you know, do you need this exact same part number, or it can be substituted. So if it can be substituted for a similar component, so you know, a 1K resistor, do you care what brand 1K resistor it is? No, so they'll just get whatever one they can, and they give you a price for it. And they don't tell you what brand it's going to be. If you wanted a specific brand, you could tell them, I want this brand,
Is
this
stuff
model
all
number.
offshore or not?
I don't know where they're sourcing it from. So.
It just appears. That's all that matters.
It's actually not a 1K resistor, it's a Chinese resistor that's this big. And it's kind of in that vicinity. They do that with capacitors, the whole you go to the offshore electronics, you can't. You have to go through a special engineering house, so this is how it used to be. And then they sort of turn it into a month's TV. If you ever knew what that was, you're probably not that old. But you might have got that reference. Okay, so it's got all kinds of wanky parts in it. Spec is there's no such thing as a 0.01 microfarad capacitor or electrolytic. It's just ones that are this big, because that's what counts is fitting it in. There's totally different.
Concept.
I don't think they
totally
do
different.
that.
Okay, so then I got into this project of doing my own SMD reflow oven, converting a toaster oven into a reflow oven. Okay, so I did not design and come up with this on my own. So there's a site called Wizoo.com, and he creates this Control 2 reflow oven controller, right? So it's this box out here. So he offers several different versions, how much you want to buy it just from him or versus source your own parts. So you can buy just this, just the controller. You can get the servo add-on to open the door at the end of the run, so it starts the cooling process. So I chose to just get those two pieces, and I got my own solid-state relays, or actually I reused the solid-state relays that we got here from surplus. There was a big box of them that we got, so I acquired those. I put those 3 to use inside the oven. The main thing that they really stress on this is the insulation. You really, really need to insulate this to get a good reflow. And they're targeting it towards being able to reflow lead-free solder, right? So they said, oh, if you're not doing lead-free solder, Leaded solder is real easy to do. You probably don't have to insulate it. You can just go with it and be done. But on this one, I've bought some oven insulation batting. So all the outside is, take off the case, and all the outside is wrapped in oven batting, and then the inside, I put some insulation as well, and it kind of had to work it and rework it. The insulation I bought said it was 2,000 degrees, but they lied. It's not 2,000 degrees.
It melted.
So it had a Mylar side and an aluminum side, and it says, the Mylar side is highly reflective. Put that towards the heat source and let it reflect away. So I did all that, and then come to look, and then when I ran it, my Mylar melted on the inside. And I looked up the melting point of Mylar, and it's like 200 to 220 degrees Celsius or something like that. And I'm running this to 250 degrees Celsius.
It works in space.
But after that, it's probably rated at 2,000 degrees, right?
Well, it says 2,000 degrees radiant heat. So, if it's 2,000 degrees radiant,
See, yeah, it works in space.
so they didn't put the actual temperature limitation. Anyways, I used, so they have some gold reflective tape that they recommend using. And at first I didn't have some of that. I just used the aluminum foil tape that used for ducts.
Yeah.
And there may be concerned that glue won't last as long right now in this
Because
oven.
you use the Home Depot, not that
Right,
pitch
and
that you
but the gold one is, the glue is supposed to last. But I've run several runs through this, and the aluminum foil is holding up great so far.
So is that the only gold tape you have in there right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause I gotta
that was
roll
where
that.
some of the other insulation had peeled off, and then I just put that back
So
over.
do you think that stuff's good? Because I got a roll and I was gonna do my whole oven with that.
What's
the
behind
gold
it?
stuff?
Yeah.
Is that like a vent or something?
There is a convection oven in there, so that part is left open. But what's behind the gold?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just the notches for the trays to slide in and out.
So what's behind the foil then? Or the silver
Oh,
stuff
okay,
that like
just-
in the back and the
okay.
top?
So that's the insulation that I did. So I peeled off the Mylar coating, and I put the aluminum foil tape over that, so there's still some insulation on the inside of it. And
Okay.
so
So
it's reflective and insulated on the inside and on the outside.
so you're saying that not only did you take the cover off and put insulation there, but you actually put insulation inside the box?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So their directions just say just to use the reflective tape on the inside, and I thought I could do one better and put insulation on the inside as well. It would have worked good if the Mylar didn't.
And what's the oven batting that you've got between the outer shell and the inner shell that you talked about? So where did you get that?
So I went to McMaster, McMaster
Again?
Car,
Mid?
McMaster.
Oh, McMaster.
So I mean, they sell everything out there, and it was actually just labeled oven batting. So it's like an inch thick or inch and a half thick. I can't remember if it's like cellulose or something insulation. So it's not doesn't have any. You can buy it loose, but this is in a sheet. So
you
I
just
just
kind
cut
of
it.
peel it down to the right thickness because or did you cram the hell out of it to get it in?
It actually fit pretty well
Oh, it
in
fit?
the top, yeah.
Okay.
So, well, the top had divots, or I guess hills and valleys in it for where I guess the elements are. So yeah, on the high parts I did cut it in half and it went there, but on the low parts it was basically the perfect height for it. So
And the insulation is needed to get the temperature you want, or to get the uniform radiant?
to control the temperature curve that you want for
Okay, because you're going to go to a
solder paste.
PWM and then slack off on the power. to
Yeah,
get
so
an
that's
even
what the
radiant.
Control Leo 2 does, and they've got that programmed in there. You tell it what the max temperature is, and then it's got the algorithms to
Right.
try to do a map, and so it does a learning phase, and you do that a couple times, so it learns the oven temperature and controls it and maps it up.
Sorry to interrupt, but the problem with that oven, the stock oven, is in order to get the peak, I have to hold for almost a minute waiting for the oven to heat up. So in other words, rather than being to go up to your peak and then drop,
Yeah.
I wait for like a minute. You're not, that's beyond the amount of time as it's
It's
slowly
lightly.
ramping up. So
Yeah.
it's dissipating so much heat by insulating it. Now you can heat it up
quickly.
Right.
As quick as you need to.
So to do a board, and I can do a sample board today if you guys are interested. I'm starting to run longer than I thought I would, but I can do a sample board. It takes about 6.5 minutes to bake a board. So and it just slowly warms it up, and then it gets to the reflow setting and shuts it down, and there it goes. So insulation on the inside, and then also put some insulation on the back. And the bottom has this nice little space, and I put some insulation. And that's where this is the Mylar and aluminum.
So what did this Easy Bake Oven cost you?
So the Wizoo website recommends, or the one that they recommend first, and they give all the instructions for. It's got one heater element on the top and one heater element on the bottom, and then they recommend buying this boost heater element to put it in there. So that one's like $30. This one is $40, and it has 2 heater elements in the top and 2 heater elements in the bottom. So I didn't bother buying the boost element to go with that. I just controlled the top and the bottom separately.
So the base oven is $40 is what you're saying?
Yeah, off
Okay.
Amazon.
And then the rest of this, the temp controller and, I don't know.
Yeah, so this was about, I think, $49. We can go to the Wizoo website and take a look. Do I have it open already?
Guessing, it's all right. I mean, not 200. Some people are proud of their stuff.
So
Yeah.
How fast does it cycle the elements on and off? 'Cause
it's
with my-
continuous. So it's got LEDs that show you when the element's on and off, and so
Okay.
you'll be able to see that. I mean,
It's continuous?
no, it's not
Like
continuous.
PWM?
It
Kind of kicks in, kicks out. Like
Kicks
those
in, kicks
Because
out.
the only reason I ask is
Because
I
it's
have
closed loop.
kind of a wimpy circuit at home where it's tied to with other lights. So when mine kicks on and off, my lights kind of go up.
Oh, you
and
can
down.
tell.
So you can
I'm
tell.
kind of hoping for a higher frequency PWM, but oh well,
You mean it does like when you turn your printer on?
As long as the
Yes.
TV screen doesn't brown out.
So here's the basic model, $69 for just the control board, which is basically a Leonardo, a custom, or a Leonardo that he customized. And he often offers a whole build kit that comes with insulation and the solid state relays and a lot more. So that one's $190 to do all that, and I believe
There you go,
I sourced all the rest
$200.
of these parts cheaper than the difference in that. And then
Especially when you had the 3 solid state relays.
I had those for free already. Yeah. The convection ovens he's saying is a little bit bigger. So if you wanted that kit, it's a little bit more expensive than the 190 one. And this is the convection oven. It's a little larger on the inside. And then he offers the servo kit separately. And so I bought the servo kit separately just so I could get the way he's got it custom mounted instead of taking the time to redesign it and 3D print it out or anything like that.
How much was the servo kit?
$23.
Okay, the third is for the fan, is that right? So you got top, bottom, and then fan for the 3
Yeah,
relays.
it actually has 3 relays in there, but there's a 4th option. So if you wanted to, so a cool down fan or afterwards. So after it pops it open, if you wanted to cool it down faster, I think it's supposed to be rated somewhere between 2 to 6 degrees Celsius per second to cool it down, and right now it barely does it at about 2 seconds, even with the convection fan running and the lid cracked open. So you can add another fan to circulate some air in there to control that.
Or you could just pull the door
Do you
open after
want-
a little bit, right?
Do you
I guess
Well,
it's
it
gonna
opens the
crack.
door a little bit, but it didn't want
Right.
it to cool it too much. So then the servo will only open it so far.
Yeah, because you don't want it to cool down too fast, right?
Right,
I mean,
2 to 6 degrees Celsius per second until it gets to 100, and then
and
it's
it's
okay.
running a top temperature of what to do the
So
reflow?
you base it on what your solder
And what are
recommends.
those
So
kinda
it's
two
usually
temps?
it's like 240, 249 degrees Celsius, somewhere in that area.
Yeah. So I think like lead-based solder is like, what, 375 Fahrenheit? I think.
Lead is?
Yeah, I thought.
I don't know. Fahrenheit, he said.
Yeah,
Oh, Fahrenheit,
It's
okay.
lower temp for sure.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah. You always do the conversion.
Yeah, I bought one of those cheap Chinese reflow ovens. I think they run them, what, a couple $100.
Okay.
But then I played with it just a little bit, and there was a mod kit for it. But you know, it's a lot smaller, and I got it for like 90 bucks eBay. It worked out. Anyway, but the downside of that, I guess, is the elements are so close that they talk about a lot more issues with infrared heat causing, you know, penetrating the ICs and or they're superheating the ICs because the ICs will heat up because they're black plastic, whatever. So those ovens may not be as good as something like this.
The insulation on the inside, what they mainly talk about is reducing the thermal mass of the oven so that all that tape reflects the heat instead of absorbing that heat. That allows it to reach a higher temperature faster and get that curve that it needs to reflow the solder. So, so on the inside, you know, I took out all the little crossbars on this to remove all the thermal mass that I can from it, and then this is just an aluminum plate. So they, it looks like it would be real great that the crumb tray that's in here, right? It's perfect. It would slide in and out, but it's steel. So they're like, don't use a steel tray.
So much
you
thermal
need
mass.
either an aluminum tray or a copper tray or something like that. So
I hate to say it, I have the crumb tray in mine. It's something stupid. I thought this was great. I'll cut some holes in it.
yeah, I saw some videos of other people doing a reflow oven, and they put a tray on top of the wire tray that's in there, right? And so then they started cooking it, and they got these uneven parts, and some didn't work.
Because
And
of the
so
wires?
the ones that were over the top of the wire didn't
Yeah.
get hot, or
Right.
got hotter and burned
Right.
burned lines
okay.
and stuff in it and browned it and everything. So you want to evenly distribute the heat underneath the board.
Well, and is that running both the upper and the lower elements at the same power?
So the lower elements, don't quote me on this, they're like a 300 something watt element, and the upper elements are 400 watts. So they actually said, oh, it'd be greater if the higher elements were on the bottom and the lower elements were on the top. So I was like, I took mine apart, and I was starting to try to swap those elements, and that got ugly because I mean, there's hard solder wire on the other side to connect the two elements together. So to try to swap them up and down, it was going to have to be a lot of disassembly. So I started taking it apart, and then
Just turn it upside down.
Yeah, that's right.
Set it on the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once the knobs are off of
move
it. you know.
the door to the
Yeah,
flip the
there
door.
you
That's a possibility.
Over.
When you design that one, and show me how you did it.
So the thermocouple just floats in there, or do you
They just recommend getting it as close to the board as possible. So some tutorials have said, you know, you want to use some, what is the high temperature tape or something, and actually,
Kapton,
yeah, the Kapton tape, and tape it to a pad or something, right? Because then it's getting the actual temperature of that pad to control it. And they said that, you know, that is a good way of doing it, but this will work just as well, and he recommend it's simpler, and you don't have to worry about knocking parts around trying to tape something on there. And so
So that came with the controller, that probe?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I usually just tape it to a mock, like if I'm cooking a bunch of boards, whatever, I'll just tape the sensor to a board
Yeah.
that's like what I'm doing, but it's separate, you know, I sit it off, but
Yeah.
anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you apply solder paste to your, you know, your pads before you throw
Yes.
it in?
Yep.
Do you have a mask?
I do. I didn't bring a stencil. I did get a stencil with my last batch, but right now I just have.
So some of the board manufacturers will give you a paste stencil?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it costs. It's like $18 to get that stencil.
And if you're
So-
doing little boards,
so
Osh
just some
Stencil
solder paste.
is great, like $10, I think. I had one, maybe it was a special, I can't remember, maybe it's about the same. But they are sort of like Osh Park, but they're OSH stencils. And you can get Kapton stencils made real cheap if you're not dealing with real fussy parts. But if you want a little more stability, then you get a stainless
Steel ones.
stencil
Yep.
cut by them too.
What was yours for whatever? What did you get, a stainless one? Or?
Yeah, it's a stainless steel stencil.
So how long do you figure you spent from decide to take this on to you got your first board successfully flowed out of it?
it took longer than I anticipated.
Don't they always?
About 2x
You know, you
what
start
you
getting
thought?
into it, and then you're just like, well, I want to buy this type of insulation, and then wait for that to get ordered, and you start messing around with it, and then I want to do this, and then you know, trimming the mounts for the solid state relays, and just getting it all wired up, and all right, let me go buy the connectors for that. You know, I really didn't want to crimp all these wires on there. I was like, oh, I just want to do, you know, remove the wires that are on there and do one length, but you know, this gets high temperature in here, so you don't want to solder wires to those elements, so you don't want to, so I just, all right, quit trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be, and just, you know, crimp 2 wires together.
So what was the fear factor on the first run?
Amy told me I better make sure I have a fire extinguisher nearby and everything, but
No, I mean for cooked electronics and stuff. What's the most the electronics take on solid state these days? I don't know. Because
what are you saying?
240C sounds high, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's 2 layers of insulation between, or actually I guess 3 layers. So the inside has got a layer, and then I have the oven
No,
batting.
I mean, I'm talking about the chip. Like, what can the chip? What's
You mean the solid state relay?
Yeah, no, the thing that you're making, the solid state and the
Saying
board
how
that
hot
you're making.
before your
How
components
hot
start
before
melting.
you cook your A4 processor?
Oh.
or whatever? What can those take? I
Well,
mean,
they take more than your reflow solder. I mean, they
Right.
have
They're designed for the
internally,
reflow.
they use higher temperature stuff. And
So there's not an implicit need for a lag factor, so you could do it, you could keep that in there for an hour and not.
No,
make
No,
it
that's why it's
electronics?
got that
Yeah,
specific
that's why
temperature
we got
curve.
it
So
first. More like-
it,
So what's
it warms it up, and then it shoots the temperature up to the
'Cause most
reflow
of this stuff
temperature,
has
and then
100
stops.
degree C operating temperature, that's different
Yeah.
than,
That's-
so what's,
That's different than the
Yeah.
reflow.
it's.
The
say that?
components have
It's
their own
different than the
rating for
reflow.
that. So
Because
the com-
that's operating with current going through it, so
Right.
what's the highest storage temperature for electronics?
all the electronics have their own data sheet that
Yeah.
tells them.
Yeah,
That's
some of
what
them are
we're-
150C or whatever,
Right.
but they.
You know, and
but
when you're soldering, even with the
it's minutes.
It's inside of a package.
hand
so
solder,
that-
hand solder, it's like, yeah, you know, maybe what 200 degrees Celsius or something with that, or 300 degrees Celsius, I forget. But it's only okay. It can take it for 5 seconds, right? So it's a really high temperature, but it wasn't a sustained for a long period of time. And the reflow is you know, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds is or is at the reflow temperature at that highest
Right.
temperature. So
But with the careful ramp up, ramp down.
Right.
And that's what the chip's spec to
Popping
do.
the door open.
Yeah, popping the door open, although I've done some pretty radical stuff and I haven't had failures in probably though some simple
didn't have the
ICs,
infantile
small
failure.
processors, yeah.
Run it at 95
That's
degrees C for
Uh,
50
I-
hours. and
yeah,
see how
I
it
can do a
goes.
demo.
Cycle it a couple of times.
I was planning to do it.
Did you ever
I just
get
didn't want to
tubes
take up
coming
everybody's
or,
time.
like, you know, parts that it shifted or twisted or crooked or?
So, again, this has all been a learning process for me, and I
Keep
thought the
kids
same
away
thing.
from
So,
the
all
table.
right, how do you put it on there? And you know, I learned this before I did it, watching some other YouTube videos. But the interesting thing about it is the surface tension centers the parts on there for you.
Right.
So when you put the paste, and you know you got it on there a little bit crooked, and then when it heats it up, and the surface tension of the pads is
Really
you know, it
does.
just
It will
centers.
spin like a square chip, a square package. A
It'll
little
align
bit.
it.
It
And
aligns.
it figures
Oh.
out
A
orientation
few
too, right?
degrees off,
No,
you know.
Although sometimes, I can vouch for sometimes little QFNs if you're off, like,
Flips
you know,
it.
about a half a pin.
Those were
You'll
good
look
ones.
after it's cooked and it's moved over one whole pin, and it's like, oh.
Immediately wrong.
Yeah,
The wrong
so it
direction.
found it- Yeah,
Oh,
surface
yeah.
tension pulled
Yeah.
it to the next thing.
So when you apply that paste, you get your basic block print potato rubber ink roller and piece of glass out.
No. I mean, for a rough board, I mean, I guess the stencil is the right way to go, because the layer thickness of the stencil, and you
Right.
smear it across, and so now it's covering the pad exactly with the specified thickness of that stainless steel template. But you know, you just take this and just roughly squirt some on here, and it'll
Squeegee
work
the
for.
sucker.
And I don't even squeegee it. You just
Use your credit card. I mean, what?
no, you just leave a little blob on there.
Oh,
And,
So you're applying the
Oh,
exact
you mean
amount.
without a stencil?
Without a stencil, yeah. If I just
Oh,
use
yeah,
this needle and I
You
put
just
it on here,
blob like you
and it'll-
were
it'll put a
soldering.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need to preheat?
Theoretically.
no, you don't preheat.
Does that stuff stay wet until does
Does
it
anybody
dry
have
out?
any pizza?
I mean, if you drop
Yeah,
your
this has a
chip on
shelf
it
life, so I think it's like 6 months non-refrigerated, 1 year refrigerated
in the tube,
type thing.
but I mean, once it's out of the tube,
Yeah, there's a certain amount of time that it says for, you have to rework it, like 4 or 8 hours or something like
Okay.
that. So after you put it on the board, you
but
know.
you're gonna do this and then bake the sucker, so. But when you put that surface mount device on it, it's gonna pretty much stick. It's still wet,
Yes,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's tacky and it'll stick to that board.
Very gently, put it on there very gently, not to squeeze it out between the leads.
I haven't had to be that gentle. It can actually be pretty, just drop it on there.
Do you try to get it on every little pad, or do you just squirt it right across the pads?
Yeah, just more is better.
Do it that way,
It's-
yeah.
it's-
Depending on
Remember,
the
more
pitch.
is better.
So I'm
Oh,
just-
really?
Just squirting some out here.
Just squirt it on the board. I guess
Just
the
putting
pads,
it on the pad.
when you wash the
Putting
excess
it on the
off.
copper.
All right.
Well, if you're doing a leaded, or like a not QFN, those I would recommend
It's not
having a
sticking on
stencil carefully. But if you're doing like
on, it's not
a
sticking.
small outline SLIC or whatever,
The
you can
pressure
get away
here
with
now.
putting a strip of solder across the leads, shorting them all out. When you lay the chip down, you bake it, it'll all.
These are the J-lead deals
Yeah,
you're
that
talking
type
about?
of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the
And
tombstone
then
thing,
why
like
would you
on,
do that?
on
'Cause
two,
the-
Well,
two-leaded.
Oh, yeah.
It'll
Stand up. I
Yeah.
saw somebody
You don't want
talk about
stencil.
that.
Yeah.
I haven't
Got a stencil,
experienced
yeah.
that yet.
Yeah.
Mask solder on or stencil
And it's
on.
the surface
That's the
tension
one.
that pulls it up,
But
so
in some
just
cases, I've
stronger
done
on one side than
small
the other.
outline ICs where I would just real quickly
Up
just
it
run a
goes.
bead across the pins,
No
across the
shit.
pad. Yeah.
And then it pulls away?
Yeah. But for anything of
Let's
any
see why you'd want a
complexity,
stencil.
a
But if you only
stencil
have a
is
few
For the
well
parts.
worth-
J-lead deals. Or
well worth it. Yeah.
It's not worth it.
But YouTube videos will show you all.
3
No, it's the size of the
component on here. So
So do you
Okay.
use tweezers to put the component, just push
I
it down?
use tweezers to put them on there. I don't know if you guys want to just take a quick peek.
Oh,
So
there
it's
it
like I
is.
didn't worry about
Get a
centering
nice
anything.
Japanese
It's just
lady.
kind of mashed on there.
Oh, okay. That holds
You-
pretty good.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, see, they won't fall off.
There you
I
You
think
didn't
one
do that
fell.
with like a 2D stepper motor pick and place gizmo? Come on.
No, I'm not there
You
yet.
got the Gerber file.
What was that? Oh, you showed the
Got
two
got
fans?
one of those
All
in the
right.
electronics lab, and I think it just needs somebody to figure out how it works.
Thank you.
And maybe build the electronics for it.
No, I think the electronics are there.
Is it a
They've got
pick and place machine?
Yeah.
An old pick and
So we're
place
just gonna
machine?
set it there in the middle of the board.
Oh, we're gonna bake one?
Yeah, this-
In your Kenner Easy Bake Oven?
I
I had one
guess
of
I need
those
to
when
plug
was
it
a
in.
kid. It had a 100-watt light
Is there a
bulb.
health risk?
I was
breathing
most
the,
dismayed when it came without a confuse.
Yeah, we're
I
all
think I
gonna
was
get
about
cancer.
12 when I got it.
The most expensive things are the mixes, right, for the Easy Bake, not the
Yeah,
Easy
yeah,
Bake
yeah.
itself.
That was the coolest thing. You can make your own cakes and cookies in it.
All right, so start a reflow.
Nobody can
Go.
kick you out of the kitchen.
Time it.
Actually,
Yeah,
I
my
actually
wife
did
had
I
one of
actually
those.
did
Her
have
brother
one.
stuck a frog in it.
About 6
and
and a
you
half
can't
minutes.
Apparently open the door.
So the
until
UI is
it's
all
So the frog didn't make
self-contained, there's
it.
no
Got cooked.
USB interaction needed?
Nope. So you can plug in USB to watch the temperature curve and plot it out and do whatever you want with the data if you want to
Okay.
analyze it.
For your fault failure analysis people.
And the Control EO2 software is open source, so it's on GitHub, and you can go in there and make modifications to it if you want to add some other stuff to it. Some people, added additional solid-state relays to control more components and make it more elaborate and do whatever you want, or you want to.
Does it beep when it's done?
It'll sing to you, yes.
Does,
Okay, so do you have different profiles for different types of components?
So I believe it has that capability to go in there and modify the profiles. I didn't bother looking at
Okay.
the profiles in there. The
So you're using
menu
the
setting is just specify what your max temperature is what the menu
Nice.
setting is.
So it doesn't, if you start to do like really big chips and really small chips, and you wind up having to do multi-passes, like in production manufacturing, phones and things, that would be manual, mucking around with the code to get the profile adjusted.
So that's
right?
time to go get a real oven.
I
It's
think that's-
time to get a real reflow oven.
I think that's
Yeah,
time
sure,
to
making
pay
fingers
someone else to
just
do
great.
it.
Yeah, it's
No,
there
yeah,
you go.
that's
true.
Atmospheric pressure? Oh, okay, so this is a is not like a low boiling point refrigerant. This is a.
It is, it's a freezer, yeah, it is.
Oh.
But it's very dense and heavy, and you put it in a.
Oh, I see. If you
So
keep
the
it cool.
vapor, it's
Okay.
vapor phase.
Right,
Remember,
right, okay.
Vapor